Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And today, I want to chat with you guys a little bit about what people need to understand when you see people online and you see all the different stories and rumors and everything that people make up about them, that may not actually be an accurate representation of who they are as a person. And it's not just about me. I'm going to talk about me in this, but it's not just about me, because you could apply this to anyone and you look at all the crazy stuff that goes on online. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And that is the thing. People need to understand that once you start spreading crazy rumors about people, if anything, it actually discredits your ability to discredit that person. And I mean, in a perfect example, you take the whole wheelchair thing. Remember when everyone was saying on the internet that I was in a wheelchair, right? That Jason Blaha is in a wheelchair. And it got spread so far and wide that people who were actually trying to discredit me in the real world and contact businesses and everything else were actually saying I was in a wheelchair. And so I want you to think about the internet versus reality. It was to the point to where people actually believed it. Like people who were my detractors online had this image of me based upon stuff they read or saw online or whatever, and they actually literally did think I was in a wheelchair, to the point to where they started contacting businesses that I associated with and actually described me, all this evil stuff about me, and described me as a guy in a wheelchair. So think about how that comes across then to the people in the real world, to where they thought it was hilarious, and they ignored all the BS because multiple people had contacted their business and told them I was in a wheelchair. So they're like, well, these people obviously don't know him, have never met him. This is just internet stuff. And because of that, they actually ignored all the other crazy nonsense. And it was actually at one of the gun ranges I used to go to. And it was funny because one of the range officers there came and he was joking with me about it. And he told me, yeah, it's hilarious because one of our other employees, she's only part-time, had mentioned that she was worried about you showing up because she had been contacted. And she described you as this crazy lunatic in a wheelchair. And he started laughing and saying, what are you talking about? The guy walks around out here and shoots, and he's actually a really nice guy. He's really friendly, follows all of the range rules. He's very safe, knows rules of firearms safety, and chats with us about guns and stuff. They're like, he's actually okay in spite of this stuff on the internet. But she had been actually convinced because of the internet stuff to be looking out for me riding around in a wheelchair. And so essentially something that stupid, that was completely fabricated, actually discredited even the ability of people to discredit me, because it made them look moronic. Because it is moronic. Like, if you have someone who you actually have no reason other than an internet rumor to say they're in a wheelchair, or even if people present evidence, people need to think this stuff through when you listen to what people consider to be evidence. Because it's not just me, it's everyone out there. And guys, and I'm aware of this, I am in the market of joking. Like my third segment, which would normally be this segment every day, usually a big chunk of my day, because I make 3 other videos that aren't like this. I talk about these current events and stuff, and I joke and troll. But people need to remember, sometimes this is all just banter and joking. Like, not everything that I say about people and speculation and the jokes are intended to be absolute reality. They're not intended to be absolute reality. And at a certain point, people need to understand all this stuff is entertainment. I might joke about Jerry Ward's Cocoa Puff being a cancerous tumor, right? To the point to where people will run with that, and then people run around saying it. And I think he's pretty much blocked all that on his channel. But guys, that's not a tumor. It's just a mole, right? It's just a mole on the side of his head. But it's entertainment. It's entertainment. We make jokes about these different things, and they're, at the end of the day, they're entertainment. Because let's be realistic here. Does anyone out there really and truly think that any of us really deeply know about Jerry Ward as a person? Do we really know who he is based upon the internet? No. Do people really know who I am based upon the internet? No. Do people really know who Cali Muscle is? And I make fun of Cali Muscle like crazy. But in the end of the day, do any of us here really actually know him? Know him? And even if someone puts on a public persona, let's say that they do put on a certain front and that's what people know them as, does that mean that that's really who they are behind closed doors? I mean, perfect example, you take the late Rich Piana. A lot of people used to say publicly, man, he's a really nice guy. He's an awesome bro. And, people who had met him or whatever had interactions with him. And that's one face that he put on for the public. But does that really tell you who he was behind closed doors? I mean, and I'm not going to get into talk bad about a dead man. I'm not going to talk bad about a dead man here, but I did hear some pretty bad stories firsthand, because I did, when I made all that series of stuff, there were people who had been in his life who contacted me. I have spoken with multiple people who were close in his personal life behind closed doors, and that's confirmed, who told me a different story about who Rich was. And Rich was really a troubled person. And that's the way to describe it. I'm not going to stand there and talk bad about someone who is dead to that degree and call them a bad person. But what I will say is that he carried his own troubles. He had his own demons, The guy had his own demons. And the public face that he presented wasn't necessarily who he really was behind closed doors. And I mean, that's just calling it like it is. Those demons killed that man. That man died as a result of his own obsessions and his own problems and his own addictions and abuse. That killed the guy. I mean, he's dead. And so to say that the guy wasn't troubled, I mean, let's be realistic. No matter what image he put forward, the guy basically killed himself with drugs. He was a very troubled individual. He carried... I'm going to go so far as to say that just based upon what I saw, this was a guy who really carried some real heavy burdens. He carried some inner demons that he struggled with his whole life. And maybe that got touched upon on the surface, but people on the outside didn't see those struggles. They didn't realize that was a real human being. He had this larger-than-life persona, and he even came across a certain way to a lot of people who knew him on the surface and in the business. But, that was a man who carried his own internal struggles and demons deep inside that he didn't always reveal to the world, because that was very personal to him. But, if we went based upon just the public perception or rumors or anything else, you'd have your own view of the guy that really wasn't a real view of reality, right? Guys, this is all entertainment. Everything we see here, it's all entertainment. It's all a facade. You see the face that you want to see. And even when people start rumors or they want to talk about different people and who they are off camera, anybody in this whole game, YouTube fitness or anything else in YouTube, truth be told, you don't really know who these people are. And even that's the other thing. You'll see someone who says, well, I know them or whatever. But then you got to wonder... I mean, so I have to wonder about this when this happens to other people, and people start saying this stuff about who these people really are, because I look at things, people are like, well, interviews were done with people who know you. Those aren't really people who know me, meaning people who know me who got contacted actually hung up. So I had multiple people talk to me and tell me, no, some of these people try to reach me, people who really and truly know me, like really well, they didn't talk to them. And it's stuff like, people are like, oh, his stepmother. I don't actually know her, by the way. So it's kind of like, let me put this realistically. There are people at expos who have spent more time in the same room with me than my stepmother has. So, I mean, that gives you a perfect example, but someone would assume, as a perfect example, that that's someone who actually knows me. I spent more time talking to Chris Lovato, right? The YouTuber Chris Lovato. I have actually spent more time in person, face to face, having a conversation with Chris Lovato than my stepmother. So who knows me better? Chris Lovato, actually, who doesn't really know me. We chatted for a couple hours, right? He's chatted with me one-on-one for a couple hours. He actually knows me better than that person. He could actually a better interview because he's actually had more conversation with me. That is a person I have casually met. That's not someone in my life. So, I mean, that's a perfect example. People will hear, oh, someone gets contacted and they say something about someone. But do you really know if that person is really close to them? Do you assume because they married one of their family members that they actually really know that person and have hung out with them for a couple days? Probably not. I mean, so perfect examples. You don't always know people from what you see on the internet. And I mean, and the whole wheelchair thing, I think, really highlights how we can get who people really are and what's really going on with their lives distorted with reality. I mean, because people were actually convinced that because I wasn't filming me standing up, that actually I had injured myself and my back was broken and I was in a wheelchair. And then all of a sudden I come out later and I start making videos of me squatting on camera 6 days a week, doing heavy squats and heavy deadlifts and squatting up to 485 every single day. No wheelchair. See, the difference was this is how internet stuff goes, and people create these big personas and these ideas of what's going on with a person and who they are, and they could be so baseless and far off base that they're not anything even close to reality. And you might actually hate different people online. It doesn't matter. You could love me and hate someone else. You might hate Callie Muscle. You might hate Jeff Side. You might hate Jerry Ward. You might hate Lane Norton. But, you know, at the end of the day, you only have a very, very limited window into who any of these people are. And to honestly say that any of us should actually hate someone and think that we really hate who they are as a person just because of what little bit you see about them on the internet, it really is ridiculous, guys. At the end of the day, all of this is just entertainment. And if you want a perfect microcosm of that, just look at the wheelchair thing with me. They've got everywhere to the point where people were saying it and legitimately believed it. And there were people in real life who had never met me who actually were looking out for this guy with a wheelchair who frequents a business. I mean, that's how asinine this stuff can get. That's how asinine all of this can get when you take the internet and entertainers online, when you take it all too seriously and you actually think that you know anything about anyone online that you see. You really don't. You just get such a limited glimpse. And I think another microcosm of that was Rich Piana. I mean, look at the reality of what everyone, even on the surface in the industry, saw versus, you know, really his own struggles and inner demons that I think people didn't fully grasp who are out there. The stuff that ultimately ended his life. You know, guys, perception versus reality. And what you see on the internet is 90% of the time, it's all entertainment. It's not reality. Even things when I may tell jokes about certain people and we get into this stuff, you can't take that entertainment stuff too seriously. It's just entertainment. It's just entertainment. And people have to remember that. All of this is just entertainment. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative. And I will talk to you guys next time.